What's up, guys? Dan Cohan here, and I'm joined today by my good friend Jared Peterson. He is a master wholesaler. Spoke at my event. He has a lot of awesome gems. He has done hundreds of transactions over his career and is able to get amazing spreads on his deals through some of the strategies that he employs and just his very seller focused method with talking to folks and just really getting and solving people's problems. So we're going to talk to him today as he shares how he's been successful in his business and some of the strategies that he's been using to build his successful wholesaling business over the past few years. So with that, guys, let's get right into this interview with Jared Peterson.
Yeah, thanks for getting this set up, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. Talking and stuff. And so how do you go about that? What you were saying about talking to the sellers and with the prices and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I was saying, a lot of the guys out here just want to focus on the numbers and make an offer and then and to justify why they have to be at this price and why they have to be at this number. And what you'll notice is if you have to do that right away, really what it means is that you're making an offer that is going to upset them. At the same time, you're not providing a good enough service and didn't build enough rapport with them, right? And so that's the biggest difference for me is we build so much rapport throughout the appointment, throughout the initial phone calls leading up to the appointment, through all of that stuff, to the point where it's like we don't even really talk about the house. It's usually all about them, and it's about how can I help you get to the next step in what you're trying to achieve, right? So like that's usually what I focus on. Is the house is secondary to whatever their problem is, whatever their pain is, whatever their reason for selling is. I mean, it's just kind of there, and it's usually just really where we meet at. I mean, everything is just separate from And if you can check off all those boxes of where they want to go, how quickly they want to get there, all that stuff, and you can just basically provide this amazing offer, this amazing opportunity for them that they can't pass up, then I think the price is usually going to be a lot easier of a conversation to have.
Right. So really just focusing on the seller's problems and their needs. The house is simply the item of trade.
Like I've never once told a seller what I think their house is going to sell for. I've never once said how much I think I'm going to have to put into it for rehab, because none of that really matters.
Okay.
It's truly irrelevant because they don't care what you do with it. They don't care how much money you put into it. They want to know what they're getting today. They want to know how their problem is being fixed today. It matter to them that you're going to spend $80,000 and plus, who knows, you might be talking to a guy who was a carpenter for 30 years and he knows that when you say 80,000, you're really trying to just screw up the number to make it sound more than you offer. You never know who you're talking to. And typically I will, because I'll learn about those people. I'll learn everything about them, try and look around the house when I'm in their house to find that they're interested.
So like, you're getting in there, you're getting with the seller, like how does the conversation usually go? Like how do you go about, well, first off, let's start from square one. I'm trying to I've never done a wholesale deal yet. I've done a couple wholesale deals successfully. And then this is the second one that I'm doing. I've bought transactions. I've bought places from sellers directly that we've turned and rehabbed. But I'm trying to do essentially what you're doing, building up a wholesale business with the lead flow and the negotiations and all that goes into it. But I guess where does it start for you? From getting the flow, how are you getting leads and, what's working for you right now?
Yeah. I mean, I have a home investors franchise that we're in. So that's our large flow of leads for sure. We advertise a good chunk of change in there too. So we'll have anywhere from 70 on the slower months to maybe 120 inbound phone calls or leads every single month. And so we'll work those when people call us. And when they call, home investors, we buy ugly houses, they're usually fairly motivated. And there's going to be the group that just, kick tires, but you can typically, field those guys out. And then when they call, when they want to talk to us, usually they're motivated when you can sense the motivations there. A lot of times, we don't really have much competition on appointments because they want to call the people they trust that they know can close.
Right.
So that's one advantage that we have, but I'd say the big chunk is that it's a lot of direct mail. Half of our leads are always direct mail.
Really?
Yeah, I would say the other 30% is probably paid ad web leads where people fill out, a form about their information, their property address, all that stuff. And then, I also have done a lot of pre-foreclosures, and my
Okay.
methods where, we'll just door knock pre-foreclosures, do some cold calling on them as well, and try and get there before the sale date, get it closed beforehand, or get a postponement, one of the two. And then right now I'm focusing pretty heavy on attacking probates and in line with what else we're doing as well, because probate has like a slower burn on it than a regular lead, and the slow burn is kind of actually helping me because the market's changing right now. So it's going, I had a guy that I met with him in August, and he wanted 145, and we're probably signing tomorrow. And we were just talking on the phone probably about an hour before this, and we're in the ballpark of about 75,000 right now. So I've gotten like half of what he initially wanted, partially because the market has changed a lot, and I just throw little spiels at them that are just different angles. Like instead of offering price, there's 3 heirs involved in this. And, they've got $5K in probate fees and crap that's going to come off the top. And so instead of, offering the 75, what I'll structure in that scenario when there's heirs is, I talk about the price per heir is what they're going to get,
their net.
Yeah. So I'm like, think about what your sister's going to be able to do with this 25 grand when she gets an influx before Christmas. There's a lot of value to that. How nice of a Christmas can you guys have? What can your brother do with this? Can he pay off his car loan? Can he do this? Can he pay off some of those debts? I know you want the 145, but that's not happening. And I got him down over time. I mean, I've been talking to this guy waiting for probate, and I've just slowly ticked him down all the way to kind of just bring him to reality, because I knew it was a slow burn. So I never had to be aggressive.
Because it's just not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, even if I give him an offer that he loved, I couldn't close on it until probate's finished. So it's like, why even present the offer at that time? Because you can't do anything as it is. So I like to see it. And then it just gives me so much opportunity to build rapport. He had a realtor that he was talking to back in August. He doesn't even have the realtor's phone number anymore. It's like, so just little things like that I've been focusing on. And there's other things that I want to attach to it, but just have a lot on the plate right now.
And I like how you really like tangentialize the number, into some like, oh, you can buy X, Y, or Z Christmas presents with the money. Like, really making it real for them instead of just, because money's money, but when you can really like convert it into something you could actually enjoy, that's a whole different game.
Yeah, when you can attach it to something that's going to provide them, I'm trying to think of the word. Is it endorphins? Is that what it is? Like,
or dopamine or endorphins?
Yeah, dopamine. Yeah, I can provide them positive dopamine from that. You can attach something to it. It's more than just the money of the house now. And they can. I think that this time is awesome because of the Christmas card. You can pull that out ease all the time. And these guys don't have any money. I mean, they live in lesser areas. And so this influx of cash is going to be pretty good. And they always tell you their number, but that's never really their number. I bet that first day he said 145. I probably could have got him for 100, but it just wasn't. There was no point.
Yeah, it's like, why offer it? You're just gonna wait anyway.
And that's the other thing is I have the patience to wait, and the follow up that I can build in our system is usually really good. To where that guy, I've been talking to him since actually July. I didn't see the house till August, but I've been talking to him since July. And I mean, I'm still in conversation with this guy, and he knows me. He knows my number. He'll text me from time to time. He sent me 2 referrals along the way, or in his area. He was like, "Hey, my neighbor was talking about selling their house. You should give her a call." And gave me her number, her address. I haven't bought them because they're not in the greatest areas, but that's also what comes with that rapport. I haven't even bought this guy's house. I mean, I'm just some young guy. He's sending me referrals. There's a lot more value that comes with that too.
Sure, it depends on the type of lead, of course. Foreclosure is probably going to be faster, but like, how long is it typically taking from initial point of contact to getting that deal under contract? How much time and follow up realistically is required? Because I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, let's get into wholesaling, make all this quick money and it's going to be great. But like, I don't think people really understand that it's a business that requires a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We'll definitely, in every single month, we'll have our one call signs, right? Where they call us. They might have a couple other people that come in and get offers, and then we sign them. And that span is usually anywhere from 24 hours to maybe 5 days at the most.
These are pretty hot, like inbound leads.
Yeah, I mean, they're not all like that. If we get 100 calls a month, like 5 or 7 are going to be like that. So it's a very small percentage. But they're just layups. You just go in, sign it, it's yours. person lives in California, inherited it, doesn't want to mess with it. Can you go give me an offer or just go break in? We literally go Joe Locks, break in, put a lockbox on it, take pictures, send it to them, make an offer, sign. It's pretty easy. But then I would say the majority of that, like, and I think the better contracts are the ones that you can lock up in follow up because of the rapport is going to give you such a deeper buy. And I mean, it ranges, man. I mean, I've had properties that the lead came in over a year ago and we get it signed, and it's pretty common that in the 30 to 60 day time frame is a good time in follow up where you'll get them, just because they've had a chance to talk to some realtors, they've had some other offers, they've maybe had a contractor come in to look at fixing everything up, they've gotten some bids on their roof or whatever, and usually it takes about 30 to 60 days for them to realize all of that, or for them to start fixing it up and fail. Like, that's another thing too, is when people tell me they want to fix it up, I'm like, go ahead. Like,
it's hard.
Go do it. And I don't say things like, you'll be calling me down the road. I'm just like, yeah, go fix it up. If you want a good contractor, here's one, and I'll send them one that's like super overpriced. Like, just give them that guy, and it's like, go ahead, fix it up. And then they go through the process, they start doing it, and they're like, man, that was stupid. Like, it just took so much of my time and my energy. And my offer is still the same offer it was back then, and all you did was lose yourself money. Sometimes they fix it up and sell it, but it's very rare. It's very rare.
I mean, if they let it, typically if it's a distressed property to begin with, it's like they've already let it go. They didn't want to put the effort into it anyway.
It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even imagine how people like do rehabs themselves. Like, we've got crews, but I can just like, even the like furnishing an Airbnb and doing a little bit of renovation. Like, I know me personally, man, it would burn me out so fast. Like, just how slow of progression it is. Like, it's ridiculous.
No, I hate flipping houses. I don't like rehabbing houses. It's too much work. It's too much time. I like to just turn them and burn them.
And I'm seeing every day. I'm seeing your strategy is a pretty clean one. I mean, I think at this point we're just doing rehabs to hold and rent, and then other than that, just wholesaling and wholetailing. But I mean, rent to flip flipping to sell is, especially right now, is I think a losing game.
Yeah, we have rentals too. I mean, don't get me wrong. We don't not rehab houses. It's just like a flip for us has to be very lucrative, has to be in a very good area with very good upside. And usually everything we'll take down at least is refinanceable in case it doesn't sell.
Sure. Right. That's good. So so you got this Home Investors franchise, and, they have billboards and stuff, but like, how does that look? Like, did you have to, like, what are the economics of owning a wholesale franchise? Because I've seen like Keegley, that what's his name has, and Jamil has and stuff. And like, I'm just curious as to how that looks, because I've considered doing that. You get the plug and play systems, get it all ready to go, get the lead flow, things like that. What does that look like?
I mean, you have to pay a fee to get in. You can pay a smaller fee to buy a half franchise, and then you just have to pay royalties you have to pay royalties on every closed deal to basically buy out the half fee you didn't pay up front. We bought full franchises when we did them, and then this franchise we have now is a full franchise. And what it is you just buy it, they set you up, they put you through the training and all that type of stuff. And if you follow the Home Investors way, like, I mean, it's definitely a little more old school, but like, it works. Everything they teach works. It's not sending DocuSign offers immediately over phone and then renegotiating down the road. In fact, Home Investors doesn't really actually encourage renegotiations. They don't like it. And they also don't like cancellations too. You're not really allowed to cancel, but you just basically get a franchise, and then it's like anything, you're paying monthly for the advertising, and then in your ad council, depending on how much the total ad spend is, you'll get your share. So like, if the ad council is $150,000 and you're spending, $30,000 a month, and you're going to get 20% of the leads that come in that month. They do all of the marketing for you. You don't have to mess with it. You can chime in, and there's like meetings that you have your whole group of franchisees from that local market get together, and then you can make decisions and vote on stuff. But that's the typical way, is just getting the leads to come in, and then you work them and see if you can buy them.
So it's just like, so there's other like Home Investors folks in Kansas City then?
Yeah, I think there's 8 total franchises in Kansas City.
Okay, so like, you're just splitting up the leads with other folks in the area instead of like you own the Kansas City market, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, so no, it's not like we possess the territory.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
However, at like a certain amount of franchises, we're allowed, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we're allowed to like say yes or no to new people coming in. And like when new people want to build a franchise or buy a franchise in our market, we get to like see who they are, because if we know them, we get to determine whether or not they ask for our input, the people that are in the market locally, if these guys are worthy of a franchise, or if there's someone that would represent the home investor's name well, all that stuff. So yeah, you can just come in, but usually you have to go through a vetting process and everything like that too.
So, you said like before when I've talked to you that you guys close on every deal you put under contract, right?
Pretty much. As far as closing, meaning like we get it to the closing table, we do a lot of wholesaling. Like not like we take it down every time, but yeah, we don't really do cancellations. I think since this year, I can think of maybe 2 or 3 properties that were canceled on.
Out of how many transactions?
Half this year I wasn't in the home investors model.
Okay.
I was with another guy. But this year total, I've probably done around 120, maybe something like that.
So far?
Yeah, so far. So a very small percentage of them get canceled.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. That's really cool. It definitely helps your reputation for referrals and things like that. How long have you been doing this? Like, how did you get started in wholesaling? Because like for me, I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm going the opposite way, but like I've got some rental property, kind of got investments, and then I'm kind of getting into wholesaling to build more active income to then fuel more investments, where I think a lot of people get started in wholesaling to make money and then they get into investing later. Like I'm just looking to see what the timeline is for scaling my business up to size like yours, doing 100 transactions a year.
Yeah, I mean, I got into it back at the end of 2017, early 2018. Really what it was more than anything else was like my mom specifically really wanted me to go to college. And I was like, I'm not going to college. So I just find other things to do. And it was back like when the guru thing was like becoming a thing. Obviously GC was around, Sperber was around, but like Max Maxwell, I think, had like 7,000 followers when I followed him, if I remember correctly. Like not
many.
And so it was back when that era was coming around. And so anyone with a Lambo and all that could be a influencer. And of course. And I bought, basically all my money I had saved working in the summer in Alaska before I moved to Vegas, I blew on courses and stuff like that. And I tried a lot of stuff. The only 2 things that really stuck with me were trading Forex, the foreign exchange market, and wholesaling was really interesting to me too. And so I started to go to these meetups, and I would go almost you could ask my fiance, almost every single night. I was at a meetup for like an hour and a half, driving all different parts of town. Most of it was just BS, trying to sell you some sort of training to make you a rich guy, right? You know how those hotels.
Yeah.
So most of it was that, and then there was one. It was actually Ryan Pineda's meetup. It was the first Future Flipper networking event he ever put on. I think it was in August of 18 when he did this, and he was just starting his education company, all that stuff. And it was in a bar, and I wasn't 21, so I had to like sneak into the bar to get in. They didn't ID you at the front or anything, and I just didn't order alcohol. So like I got in, and I guess just like because I was part of the event, just never got questioned. And then it turns out one of my buddies, Vlad, did the same thing. I didn't even know him back then. Now he's a friend of mine. But and I just, my goal at that event was to just, every event I went to was to just talk to everybody, talk about real estate. I'm not gonna lie. Like I would tell people like, yeah, I'm in wholesaling. I'm talking to sellers all the time. I would say that I was doing it when I kind of was. Like I would cold call some NODs from time to time. But back then, it's like I was working at Volkswagen as a detail guy. I was in my time when I didn't have a car. I would be like on my iPhone using whitepages.com to like skip trace and just like call a seller from time to time. And I was scared. Like if I get him on the phone, I'd be like, oh shit, what do I say? And so it was. But I just told everyone what I was trying to get into. I told everyone I wanted to get into real estate. I was starting to buy houses. I never said that I was buying them. I didn't ever lie. Like I told them, I'm starting to buy houses. I'm starting to do this. Like I'm doing this. And it was. And then I met this guy named Adam at that event, and he had just recently partnered up with somebody else in Vegas, and he was from Kansas City. I didn't know that at the time. And I had a good conversation with him. I just was talking to the guy. And then I come to find out a couple of years later that the whole point of him being there that day was to look for somebody to bring onto their team. I didn't know that until like 2 years of working with him, at the networking event. And so after that event, I started working with them, and I had quit my job. I went and worked with him, just cold calling on commission, and it was good. And then I had like a little side gig at a restaurant too. So cold calling, commission. Yeah, I wasn't making a ton of money. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just hammering phones.
Right.
I had a problem with weed as well, so I was just kind of an idiot. They ended up putting me on like an hourly plus commission, blah blah blah, and I was still working with them. In March of 19, they had let me go, and then I went to do like insurance sales, and I was on life insurance. I did okay with that, but it was just I went into some sketchy houses, so I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Then I went and knocked doors for a summer doing pest control in Los Angeles, so that was cool, which taught me a lot. Really, just taught me rejection more than anything else.
Right.
Got me comfortable with rejection, which was good. At the time, I mean, I'm making money. I went into debt bad. Like, it was terrible, but I learned a lot. And
then, learned how to sell.
Yeah, came back to Vegas, and then I started working with them again. And then ever since July of 19, I was working with them. And then at the end of 2021, and they were in the home investors model. They bought the franchise. Basically, they fired me in March, bought the franchises in May, and rehired me back in July. So it wasn't like there wasn't very much limbo. And it kind of just made me do a little bit of everything in the company. Like, my role would change every 60 days. And at the time, I hated it. But then I was like, looking back, I appreciate it because they put me in many different seats. I mean, I was managing 12 hard money loans with no experience through lending home as like a 19-year-old that like literally was high as hell the night before. Like, it's just interesting time. And then they moved me out to Kansas City eventually. End of 2021, we parted ways, just differences in where we were wanting to go in business. And then I kind of started doing my own thing. And then I found this guy that I was working with locally. We did a lot of pre-foreclosure deals together from basically the first half of this year. And then I was approached in January, but I didn't take it immediately. And then also in March and in May. And then I took the agreement in May and partnered up with this guy and bought this home investors franchise here in Kansas City. So it's like the long journey of how I got to being here today, I guess.
No, it's cool. I mean, I don't think you're probably not that much older than me. How old are you?
23.
Okay. Yeah. I'm 22. So, I mean, I kind of have a similar story, just in different industries, but working in 10 different hats, and just happened to just figure everything out, as knowing nothing, just with YouTube. And
were you local in Kansas City or no originally?
Yeah, I'm from Kansas City. I'm born and raised here in Smithville, where I still live. Okay. But and I've always lived here. And my dad has a business, e-commerce electronics, which I've worked in for the last 4.5 years, and just recently left there a few months ago to full time into real estate. But I was the director of operations and helped build it. I started in 2018, right out of high school, and then helped build it from 4 people and $500,000 in revenue to 20 people and $5 million in revenue.
Jeez, so, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of my background. But doing sales, marketing, man, everything, getting suppliers. I mean, probably similar to you. I mean, wholesaling is a different business, and real estate is a different business, but it's all the same skills, dealing with people. Exactly. And I think that's one thing, like, especially selling and working with people and just figuring problems out, like, is a universal skill that you can use in any business.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. When I moved to Vegas, I was pretty antisocial my senior year of high school, just because I felt like I had plans that were just different than what everyone else was doing. And you're seeing it tenfold now, because I've got like people that I know that are graduating college and have to go back with their mom and dad. I'm like, I've lived with my mom and dad since I was 18 years old. Like, I don't know how that works, and it's just a different model of, like, I just had a different mindset. So I was pretty antisocial my senior year. I mean, I had my friends, right, but didn't really do as much. And I had met my girlfriend, and she was a couple years older than me, so she was out of high school. So like, I was hanging out with her crowd more, and they're all out of high school, so it's like just different things. And I like hated people when I moved to Vegas. It's like, I don't want to talk to people. I just want to do my own thing, stay in my own lane. And once I like flipped that switch of just stopping with that mindset, it was really hard for me to start networking, because like, I didn't want to do that. Like, I despised it. I was nervous to talk to people, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Once I flipped that switch and like just started really doing those things that putting yourself out there, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, all that stuff. And now I have a newfound, like, I love talking to people.
Oh, for sure.
Even the homeless guy, like I'll talk to the guy that's sitting on the corner, like begging, and I'll give him $5 and just like talk to him. Right. Like there's something you can learn from like everybody. And it's so unique how people get to where they're at today, whether it's being super rich, have nothing, having this huge house with this big family, they're in pre-foreclosure. I had a guy that one time, he made a bunch of money in crypto, and then he cashed out and then rebought all his crypto, and then it tanked, and that's why he was going into pre-foreclosure. So it's just really cool to talk to him. And his wife left him, like all this other stuff, because he was he lost all his money in crypto. So it's just super cool to like be able to talk to that. And like you said, just, having that ability to come in and be a problem solver is really what any business is, because the only reason you can make money selling something or doing something is because you're solving someone's problem. Because if they didn't have a problem, they'd have no reason to pay for it. So, and that's my model is just solve whatever their issues are. And then usually you win.
Exactly. No, it's all just, that's it. I mean, really, like, and that's being able to have the emotional stamina and just the attitude of going in and being level and rocking these people's storms is critical. Because I mean, I don't know, like I found like a lot of people, even other investors and professionals, are just so emotional about everything. It's like, come on, guys, like we can figure this out. Like every problem is solvable. It's like, it's not like nothing is like, there's so many deals that I've had where it's like, oh, let's just give up. But it's like, no, we're gonna call more people, figure this out, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. I've had a few sellers like cry on my shoulder before. It's happened. People get emotional.
Yeah, they do, especially sellers with houses and stuff. I mean, there are like a lot of attachment to these things, but you have to be able to like really handle that and stay level.
And it's tough to be able to do. Some people get uncomfortable in that situation. Some people like, you'll see someone crying and like they'll continue to talk about like what the house or this or that, like like talk like something that happens. You have to like know that cue, and you have to know it's time to take that hat off and start looking at something else. And that's the problem, is most people don't look at that, and that's one of the issues that I think most people have, is they just don't know, like maybe that lady we're talking about, the house sitting in her living room. This is like my 4th time at her house too. So I started like, I could see that like the crying was coming. And like, so, because we were talking about so much tough stuff, and I could see that it was on the way. And I was just like, hey, look, if you want to like take a break here, it's totally fine. Like, I don't want you to, let's take a step back here. Whereas some people might be like, hey, it's time for you to sign. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the difference of how I would do it versus how someone else would do it. And at the end of the day, like, I don't care if she doesn't sign, because if she didn't sign with me, then maybe it's not the best thing for her. Maybe there's a better option, all that type of stuff.
And I think that probably makes you a better closer, just because they can sense that you're not desperate. You don't need this deal.
It's huge. I'm getting a deal today up north. I'm not going to say his name, but I was competing against somebody in Kansas City. I know him. I know who he is. And I mean, I knew once they said his name that I'm not losing. Like, in like a non-arrogant way. It's just, I know how he approaches his houses. And I just knew it was different. So me and these people, we met at the house. No heat. It's been vacant for a year. It's freaking freezing. And so I was like, let's go up to this. Let's go find somewhere to eat. Let's go have lunch. It was around. So we go to this place called Pizza Shop. You probably know about it because it's up north.
Is it in Smithville or which one?
No, it was up north, like by Zona Rosa.
Okay. Yeah.
So we went up to this place called Pizza Shop, and like I was just talking to them and had a good lunch with them, and I wasn't desperate at all. I was like, look, guys, if you like that guy, you should go with him. Here's the thing: is he does this, he does that. You have these things to look out for. Whereas if you sign with me, here's $5,000 of earnest money. Here's proof that it's going to happen. Here's a proof of funds. And I basically just build up the offer so good on top of everything else that they have going on, that it's not even just me, but it's so good that it's so much better than what the other guy offered. And apparently the other guy, I can't believe people still do this, but he made an offer to them. He made an offer, and then he was like, if you guys have it, because they were like, he was trying to force them to sign right then.
Yeah.
Right. And that's such a bad sign. No. Desperation. And then get this. Then he's like, hey, if you guys are going to have a couple other offers, please just don't hesitate to like call me. Please call me whenever you get these offers. And I promise I'll give you $500 more. I'm like, Like, dude, like you are very desperate if you're saying stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. I didn't realize people still did that. I thought that was a trick from a couple of years ago that was over with, but people still throw that out there, and they can tell that you're desperate for that deal. And it doesn't make sense to me. I was like, look, guys, I'm not going to give you $500 more. If I give you an offer and someone gives you more money, then you can take their offer. Like, I'm not going to do that game. This is what I can give you. I was like, I feel like what I bring to the table has a lot of value. On top of the fact that we've gone over all of your issues, solved every single one of them. It's a no-brainer for you to do this. If you don't want to, because you want $500 more, go with the guy that's going to give you $500 more.
Right.
And it's powerful when you can like take a step back and be like, yeah, go with the other guy, because no one else is saying go with the other guy.
No. They're trying to like force you into this box.
Please sign my contract right now. Like, you need to sign right now. I don't want to lose it to you. I don't want you guys to go with somebody else. I'm like, go with the other guy. If you don't like me enough, then go with the other guy. I don't want to be here if you don't want to be here.
And I think that's so critical just for rapport building. And it just like, I think it really adds like a degree of, because I think there's a lot of other value besides like price is really not even like probably what most people are even concerned with. You know, there's like certainty is probably one of the biggest ones, you know, timeline. Like for you to say like, I don't care, I'm going to definitely close. Like, this is a good offer for you guys. Go take that other one if you want to deal with him. And like the brain damage as well is the stress is probably another. They don't want that to deal with high pressure people.
And they were debating hiring a contractor, and this house needs $80,000 worth of work. And I told him, I was like, this is not something you want to do. Like, I was like, I promise you, if you hire this contractor, you're not going to be happy with it, because it's going to take time, it's going to take money, and we broke it down for him too. This is one situation where I ran the numbers with them. You're looking at making an extra maybe 10, 15 grand to go with the contractor. You know? I was like, maybe it's worth it to you. And if it is, go do it. But that's also assuming that everything is on time. Nothing goes over budget. You don't get hosed for $10,000 from the foundation guy. I mean, you don't know these things, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, the difference is I don't need every house that I walk into, because I know that I'm going to get my houses that month. Yep. I know that I don't need that one. Obviously, if there's a good deal, I have some urgency. I'm not just this lax, like, yeah, whatever, do what you want. You know, there's times where you have to turn it on, but you have to also know when to just kind of make sure. You have to also know, I always say they have to want you more than you have to want them, because if you want them more than they want you, it's never going to work. But if you can make your stuff so good that they want to work with you so badly that it's more than you want it, then usually you're going to get that contract.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you're willing, what are some of those elements that you throw in to make a contract or make an offer very attractive to somebody?
I mean, there's tons of them, but really it's all dependent on what that person wants across the table for me. It just depends. What do you want? What's important to you? You know, I lay out all those things. I like to lay out expectations. I like to lay all that stuff out. And then I want to know what's important to them, because if I can find solutions to all the stuff that really matters to them, and then we start to talk about price and negotiation. If they've got everything else, like truthfully, most of the time, the price is important, but it's only important because you haven't answered the rest of the question. If you can figure out everything else that's wrong, or everything else that is important to them, like usually it's typically the standards are, you know, where are you going to go? How quickly are you going to be able to get there? Another one of the big issues that people have is, you know, timeline is really the biggest thing, honestly. They always want to know how quickly you can get it done. They want to know on their time. Sometimes I just cut $3,000 prior to escrow to one of our sellers, because they needed to put that down on a rental and we have clean title, obviously, and I trust that they're not going to run off with my money, but do things like that to help them get that rental property, which is going to help me in two ways. One, they're going to like me. It's going to build even more rapport.
Right.
Two, it's going to help them line up getting out of my house sooner, so they're not sitting in my house after I close on it, and I'm not wasting money on hard money interest. So it really just depends on what they want. Some sellers have no emotion at all, and those are honestly my hardest ones to sign, just because I mean, I'm good with if it's just a guy that wants to get like 10 offers, I'm usually going to respond and say something along the lines of like, well, what do you want 10 offers for? And I'm like, if you were to trade your car in, are you going to bring it to 10 dealerships?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not going to do that. So it's like, why do you want 10 offers on this? It's like, oh, I want the best number. I was like, well, if you want the best number, why are you having investors come out? You should be talking to a realtor because that's the best number. And then they're like, oh, I don't want to talk to a realtor because I don't want to pay realtor fees, or this house needs too much work. I'm like, oh, so there's an issue here, and then you just you back into the issue, and then they end up, you have to make them realize what they're doing doesn't make sense. And if you can do it in a nice way without being arrogant about it, usually you can build a lot of trust with them along the way too.
Yeah, because you can walk through all the problems with them.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you've ever read Alex Hormozy's book, $100 Million Offers,
I have,
all those principles of just building this outstanding offer that you just can't say no to. You know? That's what the premise of it is. Anyone can say no to a price if you didn't answer all the other problems that they had along the way.
Right, because the house, especially in a selling it to an investor type of situation, like there's some urgency or some problem that is the reason that's prompting them to sell it to an investor to begin with.
If they had time, if they had money to fix it up, or if it wasn't super rough, I mean, they wouldn't need us at all. The investors, they would just put it on the market with a realtor, and they should do that. If it's in their best interest to put on the market with a realtor, I'll try to refer them to my realtor. Or what I'll really try to do is try and do like novations. I haven't successfully done a novation just because they're hard to pitch, in my opinion. I'm not very good at them. It's not my cup of tea. I would love to learn them, but I feel like novation is probably best for like out of state people that have no local footing in the market. That's where it would be good, in my opinion. But I really try to do what's best for them every single time, and it's not always best for them to sell it to them. When the hedge funds were paying up the, we would be able to make some deals work with hedge funds that we would be paying at 90, 95 cents because hedge funds were paying over. And we would be able to do it. But now that that's gone and the market's changing, we actually, as investors, are needed again. And that's
because it's not. I mean, this stuff is slowed way down. Like people are getting out of they're not buying right now. A lot of people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so we're, as investors, we're actually useful again. Whereas selling to us in the last 2 years has simply just been out of convenience. Now you actually might need to sell your house to an investor because you might not be able to put it on the market and get what you want, and you might be able to put it on the market and it might sit for 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah, for real. I mean, we have houses on there right now that we just took one off that we were going to sell to turn it in, and we're going to turn it into a rental because it's just not, it's not selling.
Exactly. And so that's just the reality that we're in today. And qualified sellers and qualified prospects, like people that are actually going to at some point sign a 50% of value offer with an investor, will not let you, with your questions and your approach, disqualify them from working with you. If they really are motivated to sell and they are going to sign with an investor and they've made that up in their head, if you say things that like try to disqualify them, be like, why don't you go with a realtor? Well, they won't let you do that. So they'll end up pulling you back in if you kind of take approach of backing off a little.
Exactly. Yeah. You kind of like do the takeaway.
Instead of being in their face 24/7, I just like, hey, I'm here. Obviously, like I said, there's times where you have to turn it on, but I find that I don't really have to be salesy in any one of my appointments, any one of my calls. I don't have to be salesy. And there's been people that I've competed against, and I'm like, I know that guy. And they're like, yeah, he was super salesy. He was kind of sleazy too. And she's like, I just didn't feel comfortable with him. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't either. But it's like, I don't ever have to deal with that. It's not an issue that I have.
Right. And I mean, even just talking to you, like I can tell you come off very, down to earth. I feel
comfortable. It's not disingenuous either. Like, no, it actually is too, even with sellers. It's not like I'm putting up a front and I'm just really good at that front. Like I really do want them to do what's best for them, and plus sometimes you might not be able to buy that house, but maybe you refer them to someone that can fix their roof, and then you refer them to an agent and they make a ton of money on it thinking they had no other choices. And then maybe their sister or their cousin has the property they need to sell. And I mean, one thing I also do after every one of my closed properties is I call them on day 30, 60, 90, and I call them once every 3 or 4 months after that.
Wow.
And try to send them like holiday cards too.
Wow.
Sometimes just like something nice. Like I try to get their mailing address, all that stuff, just staying in front of them, and so I have relationships with some of my sellers past the closings, where we still stay in touch. They still ask, like, I have a little cute dog that I bring up all the time. Like, how's your dog doing? All that type of stuff. And so, you can maybe buy that house down the road, that maybe there's not an opportunity here today, and you have to know when there's not, and then adjust your appointment and your meeting accordingly.
Exactly. And I mean, it's a long game, it's real estate, and it's like everyone's going to be, they're all going to be trading their houses or have people that are trading their houses
Yeah.
at some point, so
it's just a matter of time.
and I think it's like, honestly, like it's for me, like I'm always calling multiple people, getting multiple bids, but I think a lot of people, like they'll have one guy like you, if you have a relationship with them, like they're just going to go with you because they know you. It's a lot of work to go out and vet people.
It is a lot of work, and it's hard to do these days too.
Yeah, because there's a lot of unfortunately inexperienced wholesalers and investors out there that'll just lock up anything and jack around with people, Yeah.
At any price. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've had some deals where I've lost on the deal. Like someone else has signed it, and it didn't seem like it would make sense for me. And then they end up closing on it and found a buyer for it. And like, most of the time they're not big deals. They're like $7,000 to $12,000 deals. I'm like, oh, good for you guys. Like I didn't see that. Next time that opportunity comes up, I'll reevaluate accordingly. And then usually, if I lose the deal, I just go find out who bought it on the back end, and then I'm just like, hey,
right.
I know who you bought this from. Like I know you bought this house. I was looking at it. I could have had it to you for $5,000 less. So if you want to do some business, let's do this or whatever, right? And so there's always some sort of way to gain from it, and that's one of the biggest benefits. The only time that there's no gain for me is if a seller calls me, we have a conversation, and they end up listing it without my realtor, and they end up just kind of being rude the whole time, and then they sell the market to a regular person because there's no investor. My realtor doesn't kick me a referral. I don't have good rapport. So that's like the only time where a lead comes in and I get nothing from it. Otherwise, usually we try to capitalize on them.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, exactly. Just something.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to monetize in this business.
Yeah.
It's incredible with the referrals and everything else. Heck, I'm calling sellers right now. I pulled a code violation list, and I've talked to 2 guys that could become private money lenders that are other investors. It's like crazy what you run across.
Yeah, exactly. You're never going to know. There's lots of different scenarios, and it's always good to whoever makes the most phone calls, talk to the most people is usually the one that's going to win.
That's right, man. I really like best. I guess GC says best marketed beats best every time.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's awesome, man. Well, we're getting up here on time. How can they work with you, or where can they come and find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big social media guy myself, but I mean, my name is Jared Peterson. So if you look me up on Facebook, like you can find me there. I don't even this is how bad of a social media guy is. I don't even know what my Instagram handle is. I have to go look it up.
Well, how can people, how can they get on your buyers list to get your fantastic deals?
You can reach out to me on my email. It's Jared.petersonkc@gmail.com. And then my Instagram is Jared.peterson03. And then my number is, I don't need to get my number actually. You can email me.
Email me, please.
We can have some conversations, and if it seems like we can do some deals, then we'll exchange phone numbers at that point.
Yeah, go check him out, guys. He's the real deal. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Easy peasy. I'm supposed to be signing it today. They told me they looked at the contract, everything looks good, and they're going to sign it on DocuSign tonight. I sent it to them, so we'll see what happens. But it's worth about $240-ish, maybe $250, and then I'm going to go under contract on it for $105. I've got a buyer lined up on it at $125. Hoping that I can get some more out of it, but we'll see. If I can only get 20, I guess it is what it is.
You should put me on your buyers list.
I mean, you can take a look at it if you want. It's pretty messed up. I mean, I'm not a guy by any means, but
what zip code is it? Is it over in Arizona? Is it Parkville?
Yeah. It's like 64152. It's in what's the freaking subdivision called? Prairie View, I think.
What's the deal, man?
Let me get it signed first.
I'm not gonna take it from you.
Hey, as much as I do believe you,